possession per drive, they end up with 4 or 5 possessions, and they eat up 40 minutes of the 60 minutes. How the hell do you expect any offense to come out and do anything with 20 minutes or less of the game? It's not how offenses are designed to operate. I don't care who the hell you have on the field as an offense. You could have an all-pro team out there, and I'll guarantee you they will have trouble, okay? It's not how it's designed. It's just the way football is. So, that being said, Ryan, I feel like sometimes I get pissed, not so much at the players, because I know, look, 95 and 51, I don't care. And 25, I wish for weeks they would just let them go. But I'm not going to get into that, because this is about, to me, it's about the coaching staff this game. I can't harp on that enough, because you have weeks of tape of the same thing happening. It's what teams are going to do. It's what seems to be putting your team in a bind in the 2 games you've lost, okay? And so at some point, I got pissed at Pettine. Just zero blitz these son of a bitches. Like, just zero blitz them. You were giving up big plays here and there anyway so that they would get into the red zone. So don't give me you're worried about that. It was happening anyway. And at least there's some positive on a zero blitz, a fumble, a sack, a forced ball to come out a little too quick that ends up getting tipped for an interception. Because, again, I'm one of these people where what the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. That's what today's game was. The coaching staff, I'm not putting this one on the players, folks. I'm putting this one on the coaching staff. The players were screaming at their parents, my foot's broken, I need a Band-Aid. And the parents were saying, nah, you're all right.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. And add this to the list for the offseason when it comes to high draft capital in the NFL draft or free agency, defensive linemen. That is, unless something dramatically changes over the second half of this season, they're going to be in the market for some new defensive linemen, because I'm just not seeing it. I'm not seeing it in the run game, in getting stops, and I'm not seeing it in pressure up the middle. That's for sure. And I guarantee it's got to be that Kenny Clark's got to be hurt, and we're just not knowing that, or he's just completely regressed. But I'm not seeing the pressure. And that's going to be something that I think that we're going to have to look at in the offseason and add that to the offensive, the offseason needs wish list, so to speak. But, the other thing, though, too, is, outside of getting pressure, from the edge guys, we're not getting really anything from, like you said, 51 or from 52 right now. I don't know. If you see a play here or there from one of those guys, maybe one a game, but that's about it. Like I saw, Fackrell chased a guy down and made a decent open field tackle near the sideline. I think it was a running back that I was like, all right, that's a pretty good play. I saw Rashawn Gary come free on a pass rush, didn't get home, but he definitely, had some pressure there. So that was good. But outside of those two things, nothing else really stood out, with those guys. And, again, when Preston Smith and Darius Smith have been godsends, as for this pass rush and for this defense. But again, like you said, when you're on the field that much and you're giving your, high effort, because these guys they get their sacks from high effort, from having a motor. And so they're just constantly running around out there. But when you're on the field that long, I don't care. You're human. You're going to get worn out and tired. And you got to be able to have other guys that can sub in and give you that same type of effort and give you, maybe not the same production, but at least, about 50% of that. Right now, we're not even getting that. And so having other guys, step up from the pass rush, position, that's going to be, something that we're going to have to get moving forward if we want to be productive. And the other thing too, I have in my notes is everyone knows I'm a huge Jair Alexander fan. I was a huge fan before we ever drafted him. I loved him as cornerback one in that draft. Just I love the way he played and his swagger and his skill set. And he's played for the most part, his first year and a half, he's played really well. He's earned a lot of praise. But, however, I'm also the same guy that, if Aaron Rodgers is playing well and then he doesn't, I'll critique him. Well, I'm going to critique Jair here. He's been giving up some plays. And, it seems to me that it's typically with wide receivers that have high-end speed or are good route runners. He likes to bite on the double move, and he gets caught peeking in the backfield too often. Or when they're playing a defensive scheme that puts him with a really big cushion as opposed to him playing tight man-to-man coverage. And so a combination of all of those things, I'm starting to see, I don't know if he just needs a little humble pie or what. I feel like deja vu, like this is happening again because of after that Cowboys game with the way Amari Cooper beat him. But, Jair's got to step it up because he is counted on as to be the quote-unquote lockdown cornerback, Jair Island, whatever you want to call it on this defense. And when he can do that, the defense seems to play a lot better because then that guy is being taken away. But when he's giving up plays like he did several times today or not making the plays that are coming to him, that makes a big difference on this defense. He is that critical. He is that important to this defense. And I just hope that gets worked out. That he's obviously young still. He's still working through things. I'm not gonna sit here and just ridicule him, but I'm also gonna call people out when I feel like they're not playing up to their level, up to their standard, which they've set a precedence in a pretty high bar so far in a young guy's career. But I think that he's up to that task. I just hope that he starts to play a little bit better and play up to that caliber of cornerback that I know he's fully capable of sooner than later because we need him. I don't know. You see any of that with Jair, or you think everything's just been fine with him?
I think all corners go through phases of getting toasted because that's a position like wide receiver. They start feeling themselves and peacocking a little too much. And when you're too busy peacocking and feeling yourself, you're not paying attention to the little things. And the little things are when you're playing off coverage, where's your help? And still playing to your leverage. And when you're playing man press, making sure that you're concentrating and not getting your hands beat and your feet crossed up. And so, yeah, when you're John and still John going back to the line of scrimmage and he needs a little humble pie, but I will say this again. There's a lot of players in a game when you lose like this that we can call out. But part of the issue here is Jair's best attribute, just like Josh Jackson isn't real good at man because he has to swivel his hips. It's almost the complete opposite with Alexander. He's not as good because he's cocky. He lies to himself when he's watching the quarterback. You are better having Jair play on the hip of the guy and play the ball in the receiver's hands than trying to let him and his overly confident ass sit there and watch the quarterback, because he will bite. The quarterback will fool him with his eyes because, let's be clear, he's only in his third year, all right? Like, he's got a lot of shit to learn before he becomes a savvy, consistent shutdown corner. So let's be clear about that. Well, he's in his second year? Second year. Well, so there you go. He's in his second. So there you go. And he's only halfway through his second season. Lots to learn. Part of this issue is the scheme. And when you're going to play this bend but don't break, you're putting Jair in a lot of zone coverages where he's watching the quarterback and he's not playing to his strong suit. If that's what you want to play, and I know this is going to sound weird, and it's not, I am in no way, when I'm about to say this, saying he is a better player, or am I knocking Jair? I want to be very clear about that before I say this. if that's the scheme you want to play, Josh Jackson should be your starting corner because that's his strong suit. That's why he got drafted in the second round, was playing off zone coverage and watching the quarterback, because he plays with a different type of confidence in zone where he doesn't get tricked because he knows what zone and leverage and that quarterbacks want to move you off of zone coverage with their eyes and their shoulders. So, to me, it goes back to you got the wrong scheme or you got the wrong personnel for the scheme you want. Like, you have both, so if that's what you want to do, put Jair in the slot, and put him over the tight end and put him somewhere and man him up and get Josh Jackson on the field and play him outside. You drafted him. You know he's good at that. This is a scheme coaching. This could not be more of a scheme coaching game than I've seen since the 2015 Denver game where they got held to 177 yards.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Everything that you just said. I couldn't say it any better. It really is a combination of the two things. It's Jair's getting a little too cocky, and then he depending on what kind of coverage he's playing, he's not doing the little things that he needs to be successful in that specific type of coverage. But a lot of it is all coming down from the scheme and not putting players in the best position to succeed based on what they're really good at. And Jair is a man-to-man type corner. And like you said, Josh Jackson is a zone coverage type corner. And that's what they've been playing more of. And then Josh Jackson wasn't even activated today. So I know he's had some struggles, but shoot, is it really?
But that's been at the safety when they've been playing more zone and asking him, or playing more man, and then asking him to play like a deep safety or covering a tight end from the deep safety spot. Like, it's just different. Like, you're saying he's not good, but yeah, that's in a different scheme. In what they've been trying to do on the outside, playing a lot of cover 3, where corners are essentially playing zone coverage straight up the field, really. He's just better at that because in man cover 2, you line up pretty much, even if you're not pressing tight, you're lined up within 5 yards. Usually you're standing like with your heels are not even touching a 5 yard away from the line of scrimmage. Like, and that's playing man off coverage with quotations, okay? In zone cover 3, everything is designed to keep it 10 yards or less. So you line up at 9, 10, 12 yards to get a running start on the quarterback as you're watching his eyes. That's exactly what Josh is great at. Like, it's just, yeah, and the soft underbelly of the middle of this defense is becoming an issue because those zones, they're playing it because the defensive line isn't getting pushed and stopping the run, and the best way to help out a defensive line to get, from getting pushed when they're getting pushed around, is to play zone, because that brings your safeties and linebackers in flat coverages where not only are they coveraging in pass part, but they're also responsible for containing and holding the edge. So then they have to, it's forcing everything up the middle, it gives your safeties to be able to come downhill and make the play. You don't want to play zone. Like, guys, I know this is going to sound funny because a lot of teams do it, but honest to God, any defensive coordinator will tell you he doesn't want to have to play zone. They would prefer to be able to play man-to-man, because when you play man-to-man, that means you're beating the piss out of the offensive lineman.
And that's exactly why I'm going to go back to saying, I think in the offseason they need to be looking at defensive linemen.
I have receiver, running back, defensive lineman, and offensive lineman, 1, 2, and 3, because I said it. Like, I loved Clark, but you got to have somebody to spell him. You got to have depth. I liked Lowry, but Lowry to me is not a guy you want playing more than 30 snaps a game. Like, he's a base spell guy. He's not a pass rush guy. I don't think they overpaid him. That's not what I'm saying. You wanted to keep him because he is a solid player, but they are asking him to do something, again, he's never shown you that he's been good at. This again, this I'm going to say it again, and it's redundant, but this we can rag on players, and we do it, and we're still doing it.